then minus 5 equals negative 11. From there, I would add 5 to each side. And when I do that, I'll bring it over here, I get 2a equals negative 11 plus 5, which is negative 6. From there, I will divide both sides by 2, and I get a equals negative 3. Any questions on that one? Yes?
If you do the difference, so you divided it.
There's more than one way to solve it, but the only correct solution is negative 3. Yes? Well, on this one, since they're both on the same side of the equal signs, you're just saying 9a minus 7a. 9a's minus 7a's is 2a's. And then I just brought down the minus 5. From there, I have to get a by itself. So the opposite of subtracting 5 would be adding 5 to both sides. Then these cancel. And then I'm left with what times 2 equals negative 6. The opposite of multiplying times 2 is divided by 2. Then you do the opposite. Yes. Alright, so not number 4, there's not a problem like number 4 on the test tomorrow. But number 5, we need to get all the w's on one side. So instead of, I need to cancel these out. So what do I add to negative 8w that equals 0? 8w. But if I add 8w to the right, I G from each side. When I do that, I would get 1.4 G minus 6.3 equals 4.2. From here, I would add 6.3 to each side. When I do that, I would get 10.5 equals 1.4 times what? And then I would divide both sides by 1.4. And I would get 10.5 divided by 1.4 equals 7.5. So G equals 7.5. Okay, next page. Alright, so we didn't have one in like number 11. We didn't have one like number 12, so we're not going to grade those. Now 13, 14, 15, and 16 is all from the one with circumference. So remember, we have, and I told you we're not using this. Okay, so we know that our two formulas are either circumference equals pi times the diameter, or circumference equals 2 times the radius times pi. We know that the radius is the diameter divided by 2, or we know the diameter is the radius times 2. And that's how they're related. So here we have the diameter, but we want to know the radius. So if we had a picture of what this circle looks like, here's our circle. The diameter, so the distance across the circle, would be 15 inches. Well, we want to know what is just from the middle out. So 15 divided by 2, which is 7.5. So the radius would just be 7.5 inches for that one. On this one, they give us the diameter and they ask for the circumference. So we would use this formula right here. The circumference equals pi times the diameter, and we know that the diameter is 14. And we know that we use 3.14 for pi. So we're just going to take 3.14 times 14. solve it just like it was an equal sign. So we asked what's being done to x. It's being multiplied by 3, and 2 is being subtracted. So we work backwards. Yes? Oh, yeah. If you didn't round, that's fine. Yeah. So we're going to undo the subtraction first. So we would add 2 to each side. When I do that, I get 3 times what is less than 9. Divide both sides by 3, and I get x is less than 3. To graph that, I would just, do my 3 here, and it would be an open circle with an arrow pointing to the left, which means that any number that's less than 3 would make the original statement true.
Miss Miles, Mr. Rogers said that we need to switch.
Yeah, he said we need to flip the sign around.
Yeah. When it's not greater than or equal to or less than. Because he said
I'll talk to him about that, but I've never seen it
because he's
you can write it like this. This is the other way to write it, but you can't force the arrow that way, because the only numbers that will make this true is a number that's less than 3. Pick a number that's greater than 3. Pick 5. What's 5 times 3? 15. What's 15 minus 2? 13. Is 13 less than 7? No. Pick a number that's less than 3. Pick 1.
I don't know.
What's 3 times 1? 3. What's 3 minus 2? 1. Is 1 less than 7? So the only numbers that make this true are numbers that are less than 3. And so the graph is showing that any number less than 3 makes that true.
That's what he said. Would it still be wrong? Mr. Rogers.
On number 18. Number 18, we got to get, when we're combining the like terms. 5y and 2y, which is 7y. And then we'll go ahead and write minus 8 is greater than 6. From here, this is just like number 17. I would add 8 to both sides. 9. Divide both sides by 2, and I would get Z is less than